sleep. God can put thoughts in their minds while they are asleep and cause them to do things that they hadn't even been thinking about doing. So Jesus says to his disciples, if anybody asks you why you're taking the donkey and the coat, just tell them that the Lord has need of them. God is strategically placing people out in business world, the financial world, the housing world, the education world. God has his people sprinkled all over the place. And God can have someone there that knows him and that loves him and that believes in him and trusts in him and that they want to advance God's kingdom, and then God brings you into contact with them and you will not know why the Lord is blessing you through this person. Can I just testify briefly? You know, they've been trying to get us off the radio for some time. I don't know why. We ain't did nothing to nobody. But the thought of having an independent voice, see, an independent voice, basically that's the people's voice. So people call in, and I tell them, as long as you don't curse and use profanity and don't talk about nobody's mama, you can talk about what you want to talk about. We can't curse, use profanity. We can't be talking about people's mamas on the radio. Y'all should understand the depth of that, importance of that. Y'all from the neighborhood. And so we have a lively conversation, a lively discussion about a whole host of issues. And so they've been trying to silence that voice, trying to come up with technical reasons as to why. I'm the only radio program. I have to pay them every week before they will let me on the radio. And so we got into a real situation with them down there. And the guy who was assigned, listen to this, the guy who was assigned to my account, I didn't know him from nobody. And he saw what was going on. And I had no idea that he was fighting internally, saying, y'all cannot do that. That's not right. That's not fair. And so he was able to prevail about getting to attend to some higher-up manager. I didn't know all this fighting was taking place. And after it was all over and said and done with, and then it all came out. So I go to the radio station this morning, you know, and we got to pay for that time, $400 a week that we have to raise every week to pay for that time. And I go in the radio station, and he says, well, somebody want to see you upstairs. Now, all of a sudden, my blood pressure went from 115 over 75 to 235 over 195. You know what I'm saying? Because I know this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. It's going to be some issue, something they didn't say it, somebody didn't say it, and we didn't protect the airwaves and all that type of nonsense. So I go upstairs to the top of the building, and I go in, and the guy said, I just want you to know that I really support what you're trying to do. I know you're trying to rally the community. I know the community needs a rallying point to speak to the good things that the community is doing and not just all the negative things that's happening in the neighborhood. If you hear negative all the time, you start believing there's only negative things happening. So you got to celebrate the success. You got to celebrate the good things, and you got to give people the opportunity to call in and talk about the good things that's happening in their lives. That's how you lift the spirit of a community. So he hands me an envelope. And I go back downstairs, and I open the envelope, and I was expecting to see $100, and it was a $1,000 check. And I said, the Lord sure is good. yeah, give the Lord some praise, because we needed that, because had we not gotten that, might not have been on next week. My point is, that's how God can work. Who can God use? God can use anyone, and he will use anyone that will avail themselves to be used by him. And God can move in people's lives, and they not even know that God is moving in their lives to bless you and open a door for you when you really want to do the Lord's will. It's not about what the teacher said or the teacher didn't say, what the principal said, what the principal didn't say. If you're determined, I'm going to get an education, if anybody in this school get one, I'm going to get one. Now, if nobody gets one, then I will conclude it's impossible to get one out of this school. But if one person in a school, don't care how bad they say the school is, but if one person gets an education, it means it's possible to get an education from that one school. If it's going to be one person, it ought to be you. It ought to be you. And you ought to believe that God, some kind of way, is going to make a way for me to have access to what I need to do what it is I believe that he's called me to do. And God will do that. So God moves in the hearts of these people to relinquish their donkey and the coat. Now, that was prized property, y'all. That was like relinquishing an Escalade. I mean, you'll have a donkey and a foal. I mean, you could pull a whole lot of stuff, tote and pull. That was the means of transportation. It was also like having an 18-wheeler to be able to pull stuff, you see. For them to relinquish it simply because the Lord had need of it. God has need of you. He has need of your intelligence that he's gave you with at birth and allowed you to develop through experience and through exposure and through education. He has need of your talents, the skills that he endowed you with and you developed through exercise, through discipline, and through determination. God can use everything that he gave you, and then God can use everything that you have developed to advance his kingdom, but also to be a blessing to you and give you this sense of I'm being used of God. The Lord has need of you. The Lord has need of all of us to advance his work in this kingdom, and in particular, to advance the work that the Lord is advancing from this church. Now, I say this seriously. You young people, you ought to get in the Black History Bowl. Why? Because the Lord and I and Sister Christy, we have need of you. So we add ourselves to the Lord in this whole situation because we want to represent and show that young people from the church who love the Lord will give themselves to academics, who are not afraid of a challenge, who are not afraid to engage in a healthy contest, a healthy competition, where everybody's skills are sharpened and everybody's a winner simply because of the experience. Are y'all listening? I was telling a good friend of mine the other day is that I didn't realize until my children were halfway through their educational experience that they were not getting nearly the education that I received from a 4-room wooden school at the end of the paved road in a holler called Kessler's Holler. I only had 3 teachers my entire grammar school education. Gladys Wheeler, her sister Marion Anderson, and their best friend Elise Watkins. 3, whole time I was in school. Had one teacher the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Elise Watkins, arguably the best educator I've ever been exposed to, and maybe one of the most brilliant minds I've ever seen in my life. And it's only now do I understand and I kind of appreciate her brilliance. And I was recapping to my friend how that she had the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in the same room at the same time, and she was instructing all of us at the same time. And everybody was working on their skill level. So if you're in the 4th grade and you can do 6th grade math, you're doing 6th grade math. If you're in the 6th grade but you can't read on the 4th grade level, no, you can give you the 6th grade book because you can't read it. It was amazing what she was able to do in that one room by herself. And the last year, she was also the principal. So she was the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teacher and the principal, but she totally gave herself to us. She totally poured herself into educating us to be able to compete when we went to the quote-unquote white school when we got to the 7th grade. She wanted us to be able to represent, and she wanted to demonstrate that our situation did not cause us to be inferior. The fact that we had to hand-me-down books, the fact that we didn't have a swing set, the fact that we only had a merry-go-round, that was not an obstacle, it was not a hindrance or a barrier because we had her. And we had access to everything she had access to, and she gave herself to us. It was only later that I understood that she felt that it was her calling, that she was called. She was also the Sunday school teacher for the juniors. She felt this calling to give herself to the children of that community until she died about 10 years ago. She was 90 years old, and she was still volunteering or substituting to teach up into those last few years of her life. Feel like I've got to discharge everything that I have left in these young folk. So when I shared with y'all last week, that's why I'm sharing it this week, it broke my heart when I saw that my beloved Mount Hope school system has been taken over by the State Board of Education. And that my beloved Mount Hope is last in math in the whole state. And when I was there, they were producing engineers. But there are no Marion Anderson, there are no Gladys Wheelers, there's no Elise Watkins, there's no Tommy Ash Juniors in that neighborhood now. The teachers come and say, you want to get it, you get it, you don't want to get it, you ain't got to get it. It's not that the teachers are mean or anything like that, but they're not going to do but so much for you to get it. And that's just the way it is. We have some wonderful teachers in the public school. I'm a public school advocate.